Treating your battery well in your smartphone is really important because, well, changing out the battery is usually expensive. It's definitely for iPhone. Other Android phones all have backs that can't be taken off very easily. So we want to look after our batteries, and here are just some really key tips on making sure the lifespan of your battery is as good as possible. The first one, and absolutely the main one when it comes to lithium-ion batteries, which are the batteries found in every single phone, iPhone, Android phones, Samsung phones, all use lithium-ion batteries, and these batteries absolutely hate heat. Really, it is just terrible for your battery for it to be hot in any way. So definitely try and keep your phone as cool as possible all the time, which is difficult, especially if you're out in the sun. But honestly, your phone being hot is really, really bad for your battery. Phones actually are quite good at dissipating heat, and the way that they're set up really is designed to keep the battery cool. But obviously, if you're doing really intensive things, like especially gaming, if you are playing games for a very long time, you know your phone is going to heat up, certainly. So it's just something to be aware of. Definitely, if your phone is reaching maybe 30 degrees C, 35 degrees C, then it could start to really affect your battery. Software these days, and also a lot of heat management chips inside the phone, are pretty good at trying to regulate the battery. If your phone is really getting too hot, it's probably going to tell you, and maybe even will shut down. But even storing your phone and the battery at a high temperature for any amount of time, and especially a long time, definitely will damage the lifespan of the battery overall. So just try and keep the phone as cool as possible. Funnily enough, in cold temperatures, the battery isn't affected as much. If the battery is actually quite cold, it may affect the actual span of the battery for that charge. So maybe you won't be able to charge it up to 100% and it won't last that long, but it should recover quite well. So definitely cool or cold temperatures aren't as bad on the battery as hot temperatures. If you're not going to be using your smartphone for a long time, or this really just applies to any gadget that you have with a lithium-ion battery in it, if you're going to store it, not use it, keep it, then you're going to have to try and keep the battery at about 50%. Storing a battery in a fully charged or a fully discharged state for a long time is just not good for the battery life. It's sort of happiest in the middle at about 50%. And I guess if you really want to make sure the battery life stays as good as possible, then maybe let the battery in that gadget you're not using come down a little bit to like 30%, maybe charge it back up to 60% or something like that. It is annoying, and maybe you've stuffed something in the cupboard and you've forgotten about it, but if it's low or high for a long time, it's not the best. Keeping it in the middle is going to preserve the battery life overall. Using fast charging is kind of a contentious issue here, because the faster you charge a battery, the hotter it's going to get, and heat is just something you want to avoid completely when it comes to batteries. So if you really, really do want to try and preserve battery life, certainly use slower charging methods. If you've got an iPhone, use the 5-watt charging brick. It's going to take an age to charge your phone, but that gives you the best chance of not heating up the battery. Modern smartphones, though, are incredibly good at dissipating heat, and also have a lot of different technologies on board that really try and manage heat in the battery when you're charging it, to really just make sure it's not getting way too hot to actually damage the battery overall. In any case, charging the battery does reduce its lifespan overall over time, even with 5 watts, and you go through a number of charging cycles, like 300 or 400, the battery won't stay at 100% of what it was when it came. It's going to degrade a little bit over time no matter what you do. So if you're really into that, then maybe use 5 watts, but faster charging and more heat will degrade it a little bit quicker, maybe. But as I said, phones are pretty good at managing heat these days. So I would say use your judgment overall. Just try and keep the battery as cool as possible. Definitely avoid charging overnight if you can. As I said, lithium-ion batteries don't really like being at 100 or 0% charge. They like being in the middle. And again, if you're charging it overnight, once it does reach 100, it's pretty much going to stay there for 4 or 5 hours while you're asleep. Definitely try and avoid the top and low end. Try and keep it in the middle is the best way. Maybe down to 20%. up to 80% is going to give your battery a longer life overall and keep it near what it came at in terms of milliamp hours. This again is something that's really just impractical to do the whole time that you have the phone, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And again, phones are fairly good at regulating charges, and the iPhone actually pretty much remembers your cycles of charging and also your routine. So if it knows that you go to bed maybe at 11 o'clock every night, then it actually does regulate its battery levels very, very well. It's not going to try and charge it all the way up to 100%. Maybe it will really slowly charge it overnight if it knows that it's charging overnight most days. So definitely phones are getting really, really clever at this and taking a lot of those decisions out of your way. So what are the best things you can do on a daily basis to try and stop the battery draining before you've actually got home? The first one is to update to the latest software for sure. That is going to have all the upgrades and make sure everything is optimized, and that's definitely the number one tip. Secondly, just try and reduce all the power draws in the phone. So turn the screen down as low as possible because that is a massive battery draw. Also, if you can and you don't need it, turn off your network connection. So LTE or 5G, that just draws so much power from your phone. Turn that off if you're inside and you're on Wi-Fi. It's going to save a lot of battery. Airplane mode is also great for this if you can do that, but obviously you can't go around on airplane mode all the time. So try and go into each app and see if they're tracking you in any way or if they're having location services, Bluetooth. All of those will draw on your battery in the background and you don't need them working all the time. If you think your battery life has really taken a hit, you're not getting as much battery life on a daily basis as you did when you first got the phone, what can you do? There's loads of cases, even Apple have some that they recommend officially, that you can actually just have as a phone case that has a battery in it. And because most modern phones have wireless charging, it's just really good way of basically giving yourself another new battery. So you can buy the case, put it on there, and you get a bigger battery that's really going to take all of these worries away, because over time your battery will have reduced in terms of its max capacity. There's also third-party battery packs that give you a huge amount of battery, and they charge really quick these days as well. So there's definitely ways that you can not have to change your battery out. I'll link to some really good ones that I found to be very good value and good quality below to Amazon. You can go and check them out if you want, but there's lots of options that you can use to actually just increase the amount of battery you have without going through the steps of actually having to change the battery in your phone. They are my battery tips though. I hope they help you to save battery daily and in the long run from the battery in your smartphone. That's it for now though. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.